Hey, this is Danny from Scare Talk. Before we get into all the horror greatness, I gotta let you know about Anchor. Anchor is the host site that we use to record our podcast. Anchor will upload your podcast to Apple and Spotify and many other listening platforms. Anchor is completely free, and you can download the app or go to the website, anchor.fm, and you can record straight on there. There's also some cool editing tools that you can use. Did I mention that it's free? Yeah, so if you want to make a podcast, Anchor is the way to go. Go check it out. Now, for the spooky stuff.
Welcome to Scare Talk, a horror movie podcast for horror fans. This podcast will cover horror movie reviews, ratings, and rankings. Now for your hosts, Danny and Joel.
All right, this is Scare Talk. I am Danny, and I am here with Joyous Joel and
hey guys, what's up?
Kind Katrina. And we have a very special guest today, the world famous YouTube sensation, Cody Leach.
That was a good intro. Keep going. There's some other nicknames.
Thanks for coming on. We're all big fans. It's great.
Thank you.
Great to have you on this. I started watching your channel 3 years ago when you were doing the Halloween series. It's been a little while, yeah. And I know
it has
Joel,
been.
Yeah, Joel, you've been watching too.
I've been for last probably 2 years or so. Yeah. Your videos are
coming right back around to Halloween season again.
We are.
It is.
I know you're like digging into those pretty deep right now, right? The Halloween series.
Not necessarily. I'm kind of I'm biding my time until the new one comes out, and then whenever I see it, I'll walk out, and then I can have that little mental dialogue of either good, nobody's going to skewer me this time, or oh, here we go again.
Right. Yeah, that was more of a joke. I know Halloween fans get on you a bit. So.
Fans in quotations, air quotes.
Okay, so since you're on here, why don't you tell us, kind of what you do and what got you into YouTube, and then we'll get into our lists. All
right. Well, yeah, I'm just I'm somebody that started a YouTube channel just kind of out of boredom, and it started to take off after a while. I loved it, started putting a lot more time and energy into it, and grown a nice little corner of YouTube for myself. So I do quite a bit of horror movie reviews, but I review all the other genres as well. The way that I try to say it is that I have a horror focused channel, but it's not just a horror channel. And I do video game reviews as well, talk music once in a while. And as of about a week and a half ago, I left my job and I'm pursuing this full time. So
great.
It's about to get crazy.
Yeah. How's that going so far?
It's awesome so far. It was weird the first week. I'm like, I don't have a job to go to. This is strange. Yeah. And then you just kind of wake up whenever you want and do whatever you want. Yeah. And it's like, this amount of freedom is just dangerous. But yeah, I've been putting a lot of effort in. I'm already about a week ahead on my schedule. October is going to be slam packed with all the stuff we're doing for 31 on 31, which is an annual ranking video we do on Halloween. Of course, we got a new Halloween movie coming out. We've got a new Chucky series coming out the same exact week. Yeah. So October is going to be nuts.
Yeah. We're in the middle of
31 on 31. Those are fun.
Yeah.
Fun videos every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we love doing those.
Yeah, we're in the middle of the VHS series since the new one's coming out. Yeah. We're working on those. And
I saw the first one. Go ahead.
We started working on Texas Chainsaw, but we don't know when that's coming out.
I heard it was supposed to come out this month, but apparently that isn't happening. So I don't know.
Yeah.
See, I don't know, because I've heard that about Texas Chainsaw. I've heard that about the new Jeepers Creepers. But to me, if I'm a marketing guy and I have a new horror sequel coming out in October, I'm going to let you know. So I don't know. I'm not putting any eggs into that basket. I think might see those trickle out by the end of the year if we're lucky.
Yeah.
Well, Netflix bought Texas Chainsaw like just 2 months ago. So they're doing something with it. It's just... when it's going to get released
for sure.
Still up in the air.
Yeah. All right, cool.
It's a good question.
Yeah. So this episode, I don't even think I said what we're doing here. We're going to talk about our top 5 for the 80s horror films between the 4 of us. And Cody, let's start with you. We'll do some honorable mentions first. So you can go ahead and tell us those.
All right. Well, I came with 2 honorable mentions. One of them everybody loves. The other one always gets me into arguments. So I said I have to at least mention this. My number 6, I guess, or my number 7, technically, I guess, is The Terminator, the original. A lot of people don't consider it a horror film, but I don't know what movie they watched, because as far as I'm concerned, that first one is a straight up horror movie. I mean, if Arnold was carrying around a machete, I don't think anybody would even argue. But I think you can still consider it a slasher film, even though he's pumping bullets into people and pushing his hand through people's chests. So I mean, the original Terminator and Terminator 2 are among the best like 1-2 punch in cinema history, as far as I'm concerned. And the first one's just got a really great flavor to it, because it's the only one in the franchise that is that dark and is trying to scare you, and has a lot of kick-ass action to go along with it.
That's definitely one that most people would consider just strictly a sci-fi movie. But I do agree that I've always agreed that Terminator is kind of was pretty much a slasher movie as well. But yeah, that's definitely a good one.
Well, and I think a lot of people, when they think of Terminator, I think the first thing that comes to mind is Terminator 2, because that's probably the more well-known movie, and so it's hard to think of Terminator as a horror film. But no, I agree. I think there's some good arguments for that, for sure.
Had you considered
more
that?
Of like a action.
Had you considered that as a horror movie before, Danny?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I did. I was scared of that movie when I was a kid.
I hadn't seen it since.
There you go.
Yeah, that movie scared me when he like takes his eyeball out and stuff. Like, yeah. Anyways, okay. What else you got?
And my other honorable mention is a vampire classic, the original Fright Night. That is a movie that I was kind of late to the party on. I want to say I was like 12, 13 or something, and me and my dad were just hanging out, watching whatever was on TV, and one of those late night shows where some random host you've never seen before is like, all right, this is the next movie up, and Fright Night came on. And I was tired to the point where I'm like, whatever, let's find something to fall asleep to, and then I was hooked. It's to me, it's when I think of like a classic vampire movie, that's kind of the template I look at, all the classic rules and, the reflections and don't invite them in, and even the whole horror aesthetic that it brings, to where it's an 80s movie, but it also has like that old school, the 40s and the 50s, where they have the Peter Vincent character. And I love the way that his relationship with Charlie is, to where Charlie's very much kind of the new kid on the block as far as having all the 80s rules and that 80s mentality, and he's old school and doesn't believe in it, and then has to. I think that Jerry Dandridge is like one of the coolest vampires ever, and Chris Sarandon. So that's just a movie that I have very little negative to say about. I love that one.
Nice. Yeah, I was thinking of rewatching that one before we did this list, and I didn't, so it's not going to show up on my list. So,
yeah, I was a little late to the party on that one too. I think I watched the remake before I watched the original, and the remake was good.
And I'll tell you, I think that the remake's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
All right, Katrina, what do you have
for my honorables?
Yeah.
Okay. I have Christine as my first honorable mention.
Yeah,
any movie with a car, starring a car, is going to be on my list. And Cujo.
All right.
Because that movie
Gonna see a lot of
terrified
Stephen
me.
King movies on your list, are we?
What was that?
Gonna see a lot of Stephen King movies on your list, are we?
I think. Well, I'm not going to answer that, Joel.
Okay.
But Cujo, I had never seen until at your guys' house when you guys were living together and Joel was watching it.
Yeah.
And that terrified me. I was like, what are we watching? So I had to mention that one.
Okay. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, we were thinking of watching that, but our dog, he barks at every sound. And so if we put Cujo on, I think it would be just too much in the house.
He would lose his mind.
Yeah.
He'd need to be staying at a friend's house to be able to watch that movie.
All right, Joel. What do you got?
All right. So my first honorable mention, I actually just watched for the first time a few days ago. It's The Serpent and the Rainbow.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
That is a
Jumped all the way to the top of the list.
That's actually an honorable mention for me. So, but yeah, it's a movie about voodoo. It's a good one. It's based on a novel and also inspired by a true story. How much of it's true? Probably not a lot, but it was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed that one. So,
All right.
and then I've got.
Are any of you guys Godsmack fans?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That movie inspired the song Voodoo.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Fun little tidbit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I actually didn't know that. Nice. Yeah, they're a good band. We've seen them a few times.
Right.
And Silent Night, Deadly Night. Now, this is in my opinion, a very underrated slasher movie from the 80s. We did
Punish.
Naughty.
It's a
Doesn't he say naughty?
yeah, naughty. Yeah, he just repeats naughty when he's about to kill somebody. It's cheesy. It's 80s cheesy, but for an 80s cheesy slasher movie, it's never really talked about, and I honestly like it more than Friday the 13th. So
Yeah, I would agree. I like that. I have more
Oh,
fun with
man.
that. Cody,
I
don't
can
you
hear
always,
the pitchforks and torches getting lit up right now.
don't you always, haven't you said Friday the 13th, that series, just like glorified B horror?
Yes, absolutely. And anybody that argues that they're not, it's not even like it's an insult. It's not saying that they're garbage movies, although some of them are. But it's just the approach that they take is very B movie-esque.
Right.
And when I watched that whole franchise for the first time, that's when it kind of clicked. I'm like, why do people act like these are like A-level? It's just not even trying to be. It's just, hey, let's get some naked teenagers and slaughter them for 45 minutes while we give you the same backstory that we've given the past 7 movies.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so for me, I've got Hellraiser as a mention.
All right.
I saw this, and so the thing is that I wanted to mention, I didn't grow up on any of these movies. I grew up on 90s horror more so.
I did too.
And so then started getting more into the 80s as an adult. So there's no nostalgia really for me for any of my movies on my list. So Hellraiser, saw that, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. And I just feel like that movie is really dark, disturbing. I love the practical effects in it, and I love the story. But something I wanted to mention that I found funny, I watched it recently again. Frank, the guy who's regenerating himself.
Yeah.
He's, in the middle of regenerating himself, and he's all bloody and fleshy and just muscle and tissue, basically. And he keeps wearing this white shirt, this white, like, button-up shirt, and it's just getting all bloody. And I'm like, why is he wearing a shirt? and why a white shirt? Like, dude, you're ruining your shirt. I just thought that was funny. And he looked ridiculous wearing this like dress shirt, you know. I don't know. I just thought that was funny. So
he's all muscle and tissue, and he's just wearing this nice, like, I'm going to go to work shirt.
Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, it's a weird movie, strange series in general. But yeah, it's fun.
You could say that again.
Yeah. Okay, and then I have another one that I have to mention, and you guys are all going to hate me for it. And
there we go.
I think I am one of like 5 people in the world that really likes this movie.
I think I know what you're going to pick.
Halloween 5.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. So,
yeah.
That's when we lost Cody.
So,
yeah.
Hear me out.
Let me get comfortable when I listen to this.
Hear me out. So, I mean, it's a horrible movie. It's a bad movie. Bad acting. Michael's mask is horrendous. But for some reason, I just have fun watching it. I have fun, like, laughing at it. And just, it's one of those, to me, like, so bad that it's good type of movies. And it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit in the Halloween universe. It's really a change of tone and everything. But for some reason, I enjoy it.
Change in tone.
I can't put my finger on it necessarily, but the characters are so over the top. Loomis is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's probably his most ridiculous he's been in all of the movies.
Yeah, he
has some pretty ridiculous lines throughout the series.
Yeah, he gets pretty hands-on in that.
Do you think that it's because you've watched it so many times that it's grown on you?
Well, I've watched it so many times because I enjoy it.
I didn't know which one it was. So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I have a weird fascination with that one, and I'll admit I'm very much in the minority, and I don't know why I like it, and I shouldn't.
Very much.
Yeah. But yeah.
This is going to reflect his list.
And, you know, it's not like my top 7, you know, it wouldn't be top 7, but I wanted to mention it because it's worth mentioning to me.
Because nobody knows about Halloween 5. Right?
Yeah.
Nobody knows about that series.
I wish nobody knew about Halloween 5.
Right. Okay, enough of that. Enough of my.
You're gonna have a lot to redeem now in your list.
Oh, it'll get better. Don't worry. Okay, all right, Cody. Let's go with your number 5. The official number 5.
Official number 5. Boy, Phantasm 2.
Okay.
2. Oh, okay.
I grew up loving 2. I think the first one's in the 70s, so just narrowly missed out.
Oh.
But Phantasm 2 is my favorite most of the time with the franchise. It's pretty neck and neck with the first one, but 2 is definitely kind of the most fun, the most stylistic, the most badass to go back to. It kind of takes the crazy sci-fi horror cerebral concept of the first one and makes it much more of kind of a road action movie, which I think helps it a lot because the first one, as much as I adore it, is not for everybody. Anybody that watches the first one and tells me that what am I smoking for recommending that, I always like, well, we'll watch the second one. Watch the second one and get back to me.
Yeah.
So this is just one of those movies that I grew up with. My dad had the VHS tape. Most of the movies that I grew up and fell in love with, that's the intro to the story is, my dad had the VHS tape and I just destroyed it because I played it and rewound it so many times. But it's got a lot of good action to it. I love how it kind of ramps up everything about the first movie with the spheres, with the tall man, with the little Jawas walking around. I think there's some really good body horror in it. And I actually prefer the Michael that we get in this one. I believe Michael LaGrosse might be his name. I could be messing that up. But you had Michael A. Baldwin in the first movie and all of the others. And I think he's great in the first movie, but not so great in all the others. And I don't know, something about he's either Mike LaGrosse or James LaGrosse, but the new Mike that we get has a little bit more attitude to him. And of course, Reggie is just awesome, especially in this one. So yeah, this is a horror sequel that has always been near and dear to me.
Nice. I'm not too well versed in Phantasm myself.
That's a series you may.
It's not it's not a whole franchise that I could necessarily recommend because I think the first two are really the only ones worth watching. I have fun with 3 and 4, and 5 was absolutely garbage. But it's definitely a franchise that it's either going to be for you or absolutely not for you.
Okay. Yeah, I just looked it up. James LaGrosse is
James LaGrosse. Okay, I thought Mike LaGrosse. I was like, that doesn't quite sound right.
Okay, cool. Well, that's definitely not on my list, so I will note that.
Yeah.
What is Freddy's Dead? Jason Takes Manhattan.
Oh yeah, no, we'll get there.
You're spoiling his list.
I was thinking of talking about Freddy's Dead just to piss you off. Okay, Katrina, your turn.
Okay. So my number 5, I have Child's Play.
Nice. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Your list is awesome. I'm just going to say that right now.
So
You had me at Christine, and I'm totally hooked with Child's Play.
All right. I might lose you a little bit in the next few, but hopefully I'll get you back.
Oh.
We'll see. But Child's Play, I had not seen until I was like within the last few years.
Yeah.
And it is so fun.
Yeah.
And so funny. I'm glad I watched it. The only one I had ever seen before then was Chucky
The
Bride of Chucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bride of Chucky.
Because I saw that in theater when it was,
Yeah.
in theater. But I'd never seen any other ones. I'm
Right.
glad that we ended up watching that. That one was a good one.
Yeah. And then we saw the
And isn't
remake after that, or the reboot, remake, whatever. they're
Yes,
calling
and
it.
I loved the one that came out.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I think they did a good job on that.
I like how you called it
I agree.
funny because I'm pretty sure the first 2 were supposed to be very serious.
And it's
Child's Play
not
movies?
though, because you're watching this little doll
I know. Yeah.
talking very derogatively.
Chucky always towed that line. I mean, unless you're like, you have a phobia of dolls, like his one-liners and his personality always makes him more fun than some of the other horror icons. Like, of course, he's scary because he's, he could kill you, but when he cracks a joke, you're just like, I can't help but love you, you little bastard.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the tone of the first one I think was probably the most serious. But yeah, still it's a doll, and so
Still cracks you up.
he does have a couple
The way he
one-liners.
runs.
All right.
People say, "Why don't you just kick him or something?" Like people just talking about how stupid Child's Play is because they could just kick him out of the way and that'd be it. Like, no, that's not really how that works.
All right, Joel.
He doesn't usually just run at you. He usually comes like from behind.
Yeah, he surprises you.
Yeah, he does. He has to. He's so small. So my number 5, and this is probably not gonna. I like Danny was saying, I didn't grow up on 80s horror movies. I grew up on 90s, but I definitely did get into 80s movies throughout the years. So again, I don't have nostalgia either for a lot of these movies. So my number 5 is Poltergeist.
Oh, all right.
I really like this movie. I think it's silly. It's 80s kind of ridiculous from time to time, but there are definitely scenes in that movie that are impressive for like special effects for the 80s, especially that end scene, that entire like end segment that they have in there. It has some pretty creepy moments. So I do enjoy it. It does have some B-level acting in it, but there's also some pretty decent acting as well. So yeah, that's my number 5.
So
I don't think I've seen the other Poltergeist movies, but the first one's good, in my opinion.
So I hear that there's like controversy over who actually directed that movie. Whether it's Tobe Hooper or Steven Spielberg.
Oh, yeah, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
It's very.
If you watch that
Spielberg.
movie, it's extremely yes.
Yeah. I just heard
Yeah,
some
it's got that fantastical
rumors.
feel to it that only Spielberg can do. But yeah, I'm sure he definitely had a lot to do with it. But Toby Hooper got the credit for it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So my number 5, it's probably going to be higher on all your lists, but it's number 5 for me. The Lost Boys. 1987.
Awesome.
So a little upgrade from Halloween 5, just a tiny bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a tad.
But so I get to talk about it first. So
Okay.
That's why you did it. It was strategy, right?
I love Kiefer Sutherland in general. One of the best shows ever is 24, in my opinion. So
Yes.
the fact that he's in it, I think I've liked almost every movie I've seen him in too. So yeah, and then it's just a fun movie. It's like a cool movie. You know, the vampires are cool. They're like hip, I guess you would say, for a vampire movie. The little twist at the end was pretty cool. The practical effects again, like 80s. When I think of 80s horror, I think of cheesy acting and practical effects. I think that those are two ways to sum it up. And this movie has a little bit of both. So, yeah, fun movie.
That is definitely a good one.
All
for
right.
sure.
Cody, you're next.
Number 4.
All right. Well, my number 4, for the sake of not talking about the same franchise twice, I only picked one of these movies, and I'm going with Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors. The first one and the third one are pretty damn close for me, but I definitely watched the third one the most. It's got everything that I love about the first one, but it's 80s a little bit more. It's got that heavy metal Dokken soundtrack. All the kids are a little bit more animated, a little bit more memorable. And I think Freddy, like a lot of people say that after this movie, Freddy went downhill and they try to blame this movie for it. I put the blame on number 4, to be honest, because I think that they got the perfect mix in this movie where you got scary Freddy and darkly comedic Freddy, and all of his one-liners and everything in this. It's such a different style for the character, but it's so welcome by this point because of the style of the movie, in my opinion. Nancy coming back was great, and the way that they brought her back and made her kind of like the mentor for these new kids, the protector. The whole added lore with Amanda Kruger and giving the backstory to Freddy about the son of 1,000 maniacs is so insanely like dark and disturbing that it just totally fits that character. Maybe the movie starts a little bit better than it ends because it gets a little bit fantastical in the last 10-15 minutes, but I still love the hell out of it. So that's absolutely my number 4.
Do you know how much time's supposed to pass between 1 and 3? Because Nancy being a high schooler and then all of a sudden being like a guidance counselor,
She's like a grad
took years
student.
I thought that took like years to.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
To be.
You're thinking very seriously about this, Joel.
I am. Yes, it's a good. I love the movie, but
it's Freddy.
I've never heard that nitpick brought up before.
Well, because the movies are 2 years apart, I believe. And so, yeah. I mean,
No. Like canonically, you mean?
like
I'm not sure. I have to look that up.
Like dates, like the first one was 84. Was the third one 86? Or 87?
Let me look
I
that
like how
up.
you're
I
looking
don't
at
think it
me.
was 3 years.
Like I'm gonna know.
This is serious business.
I mean, she.
1987.
Okay, so 3 years. All right. So she whizzed through college and got into a grad program.
She whizzed
Cool.
through college.
She did all the studying in her nightmares.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing.
Okay, yeah.
That's her dream power. She's smart as shit.
I had a feeling that was going to be on your list. For me, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that one. The whole like dream powers and stuff. I don't know. It was a little too much for me. I like more of the either number 1, 2, or 4, like go into the more comedy. So,
Okay.
but you know,
Gotcha.
this is the guy that likes Halloween 5. So
Yeah.
True.
Trust me, I haven't forgotten. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, this guy.
Okay,
okay,
you're the Halloween 5 guy.
right? Yeah, don't mind me. All right, Katrina.
All right, number 4.
Yeah.
I've got Little Shop of Horrors.
Nice.
I gotta get a musical on there. I love music and the way this brings in just fun, and I just love this movie. It is.
It has a
way
huge
too much
cast
fun.
too of like comedic actors.
Yeah, it's a
think
pretty
that's
great
the one
movie,
you-
and I was thrilled
there's
when
like
it was
18
on the
different-
like actual horror movie list.
Yeah,
So
the man-eating plant.
the man-eating
Yeah.
plant, and it's a pretty like intense movie. Like
I
there's
don't
some
know.
serious kills in that movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
In
The
between their
dentist
dance
part and
segments, yeah, it's
everything.
pretty intense.
Like, and who hasn't like feared the dentist like
Like
Alright.
that?
yeah, like I don't know, I love it.
Okay. All right, Cody, have you seen that one?
I have not. I'm
Oh.
not really a musical guy. The only one, honestly, that I've ever watched and fallen in love with is Willy Wonka, and I've crashed and burned on every other one. So I haven't quite the strength to get through that one yet.
This one is worth it. It is. You just have to have a fun time with. It's like the, boo-bop music.
Like the 50s?
Yeah, and just have a fun time with it, and don't take it too seriously, and it's a lot of fun.
Definitely don't take it too serious.
I highly recommend it, Cody.
All right. Joel, your turn.
Okay. My number 4 has actually been said earlier, but it's Hellraiser. I think the first time I watched this was with you,
Yeah.
Danny, and I hadn't watched it since I think I watched it yesterday, actually, or the day before, and for the second time, just to see if it still holds up to be on my list. And it's definitely dated in its effects, but it's still pretty creepy. And Pinhead, although he's not in it a whole lot, I somehow remember him being in it a lot more than he actually was. But he's pretty creepy as well, and I actually enjoy it. I don't know if I'd enjoy the other 5 Hellraiser movies, but the first one,
Like 12.
so there's
there's a
that
lot,
many. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're all after 3. Just pretend that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I always
Yeah.
wondered about, after watching Hellraiser, how Pinhead became so big, because he's really not really a part of that movie that much. I mean, he's in it, but it's more Frank that's like kind of...
That's the crazy thing about that movie is that you look at the poster, and if you or the VHS cover, like the way that we all used to pick these movies back in the day, where you just walk to the back of the video store and go, "That looks badass, I'm getting it." You look at the Hellraiser cover and you're like, okay, so this crazy sadomasochistic dude's gonna walk around chopping people up. That's what this is about, right? And it's not that at all. And then every single Hellraiser movie after that is kind of the same, to where Pinhead's kind of a guest star in his own franchise through the entire franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
that's
weird. That's why I probably never really watched it before, because it just, I don't know, it looked kind of sci-fi, the cover, and it looked kind of weird, and I was like, I don't really care to watch that. And then, just kept hearing about it, and I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot, and it was nothing like I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I kind of feel the same way with Candyman, how in the original Candyman movie, he's maybe in it for 15 minutes of an hour and a half long movie. and yet he, Tony Todd is known as the Candyman. Yeah. And it's like, you're not even in your own movie that much. Like, I haven't seen the second and third one, so I'm not entirely sure. He's probably in it more.
Oh, wow.
The first one, but he's not that prominent of a character in the first one, in his own series.
Yeah, the first one, he's a looming presence in the first one. He's kind of like that impending evil, which I love. I agree. The first one, you think Candyman, and I'd never seen it, and I'm like, okay, so it's going to be just a generic 90s slasher, and it's not. It's like a gothic love story about urban legends, and it's very deep. You get into Candyman 2 and 3, and it's like, oh, no, this is the generic 90s slashers that I thought the first one was going to be.
Oh, okay. So he's in it a lot more.
They're rough.
You're saying.
Yeah, and not for a better effect.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 4 is The Thing, 1982.
Ooh.
All right.
When I first saw this movie, again, watched this as an adult. When I first watched it years ago, wasn't that big of a fan. I'm not really a fan of like sci-fi or sci-fi horror in general. But watched it again recently, and yeah, I got to give this movie a lot of credit. Kurt Russell does a great job. It's John Carpenter. The score is going to be good, and it is. The effects are just wild. If you want to watch a movie with good effects from the 80s, this would probably be one of the top ones to watch. The whole mystery,
as far as I'm concerned, it's like the Bible on practical effects.
Yeah. The tension with, who's the thing and, all that is great. And a lot of times I don't really care for movies that take place in the snow either, for whatever reason. Maybe I can't relate to it because I live in California. But this one, like the secluded, just like kind of trapped feeling that this one brings also adds to the story. So
yeah,
I dig it.
It is a good one. Yeah. Enjoy that one too.
Okay. Cody, you're up.
You're number 3.
Number 3.
All right. Number 3 for me is the original Pet Sematary. This,
nice.
To me, is still, like, when people talk about the scariest movie of all time, this is my answer for a lot of different reasons. This was one that I grew up watching, like everyone on this list, and my dad had this uncanny ability to where we were watching it, and as soon as Zelda was about to come out, he would be asleep on the couch, and I would just be by myself with her.
Oh, man.
So
yeah,
Zelda's a large reason why I say it's the scariest of all time, because, and I've said this ad nauseum on my channel, but only 2 characters in horror history have ever followed me into nightmares, and that's Zelda and Tim Curry's Pennywise. So I have a lot of love for this movie for being one of 2 movies in 31 years to genuinely mess me up. But as I've gotten older, the movie has kind of evolved because the subject matter of it, talking about death, talking about grief. By the end, your central antagonist is a reanimated child. When you become a father yourself, the horror of this movie just amplifies. When you get to the scene where he's about to get taken out by the semi, it was like, whatever, that's cool. Watching it as a kid, that sucks. And then whenever you're watching it as an adult, it's like your stomach churns. And you see later on where Lewis Creed digs up his son, and there's a scene where he's just sitting there holding his cold corpse, and it's just like, oh my God, that stuff just like, it penetrates your soul when you're actually a parent. So the horror of this movie has kind of evolved and gotten worse for me as I've watched it. And I've watched it dozens of times, but I just love it. A lot of people say it's dated. A lot of people say it's corny, and, to each their own. But I've always found the performances in this to be really good, especially Judd. So it's one of those movies that I don't necessarily watch it all the time because it does elicit some emotions from me, but when I genuinely want to be creeped out and feel what horror is supposed to make you feel, this is my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another Stephen King. For everybody's list.
Yeah.
I haven't mentioned him in a little while, though. So,
what did you think of the remake?
I did not like it at all. I had sky-high hopes for it because I loved the casting. But what I found with the remake, and it didn't help that the marketing completely screwed their the twist that they were trying to implement, where they, swap kids.
Yeah.
So that kind of pissed me off because I'm somebody that I don't like to watch trailers for that reason, and that was just some of the most blatantly irresponsible marketing that I've ever seen. But I walk into the movie knowing that that's going to happen, and to me, even though all of the actors definitely got an upgrade. Like it's no question. Everybody that's cast in the new one is a better actor than their counterpart in the 1989 film. But for some reason, the offbeat weirdness of the original kind of getting cleaned up made this less scary and less effective and less interesting. And above all of that, what I found is they went through this whole thing about changing the kids, and they didn't even do anything with it. Like, you now have a child that can speak, that can form complete thoughts, that is intelligent enough to know what happened to her, and they don't really do anything. As soon as she's reanimated, the movie stomps on the gas and ends 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely tried to go in different directions, and that's not always a good thing. Sometimes that's good for a remake to try to do something new. But that sometimes it's not, especially if you're a huge fan of the original. Then a lot of times making big changes like that can really turn you off. So definitely understand that.
Well, I'm a huge fan of the idea of the change. Like if they didn't spoil that in the marketing, and I walked into that movie and it got to the scene where it's Gage is about to get hit, it's coming, and then all of a sudden he doesn't. Yeah. And you're like, what's going on? Oh my God, it's her. That would have been awesome. But even with that, they just don't do anything with it. So if they had just made the third act make sense of why you would make that gigantic change and do a better job at not spoiling it in the damn trailer, I think it could have been significantly better. But as is, I didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I don't know why they even made that change in the first place. I guess it's easier on people to see an 8-year-old get hit by a car instead of a 2-year-old. I don't know, what their mindset was for that change.
I don't know either. My assumption was they were going to just take the third act in a very different direction because with the original, he's practically a baby. He can't do a whole lot. He's kind of like the Chucky argument that we were just having, but with a preteen, you can do a lot more damage. You can get a lot more into the psychological stuff, but they didn't. They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
But
that's a movie that I've seen once, and I'm good with not seeing it again. The remake.
Yeah. I walked out and I immediately texted CP and Brian and all my buddies, and I'm like, yeah, nope. And that was it. That was my review.
But yeah, the original is good. It's classic. And, it's something about these original horror films too, like you said, that just kind of offbeat weirdness.
Yeah.
Whether
factor.
Whether that was intentional or not, I don't know. It might just be the 80s being the 80s. But there is that is like an intangible, something you can't really recreate.
Yeah, it's just all these little things. The off-kilter way that they all talk with each other. You got the little nanny character that's only there to make a joke and then hang herself randomly. And, you got that little score going on with all the kids where they're like, la, 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 la. And you're like, what is going on?
No, yeah, kids singing is the creepiest thing in the world. In these horror movies.
Man.
Okay. All right, next we got Katrina.
Okay. I will say I did think of putting Pet Sematary on my list.
Okay.
But because of the creepiness of it is why I couldn't put it on my list.
This is a horror.
I know.
This is horror.
I like horror for a different purpose.
I don't think you understand the concept of horror movies. Okay.
Well, I understand. Just
this is our favorites. Okay, everybody's different.
I know.
everyone has their own. No, no, because it is so creepy. I wanted to pick movies that I would want to see again, that I would want to watch again, and it's hard for me to watch that one. But it stood out to me like, oh man, that was a good movie. It was well done, but too much for me. So I went nostalgic with my number 3.
Okay.
Gremlins. That movie is my nostalgic movie.
Now, is that a Christmas movie or?
I think we decided that,
debate?
right?
Yeah,
It's
no.
not a Christmas movie. You could take Christmas out of that movie and still, he could have given him a gift for his birthday or for any number of different things.
Right.
Yeah.
But this movie, it still creeps me out. Like, I don't know. It still like has that like, I know what's about to happen. Oh my gosh, be careful. Like, don't do it, you know? And it just takes me back every time watching right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Takes me back. So I love this movie.
Okay. Gremlins.
So
Gremlins,
Cody, I
Gremlins?
warned you. I might lose you a little bit on my list, but I might bring you.
No. I like Gremlins. I'm curious on your quick thoughts on Gremlins 2.
Well,
Exactly.
It would never make her list.
Yeah, I stick with the originals. Any 2 movies or sequels to anything, they really have to impress me to make it to a status with me.
Yeah.
And
Gotcha.
yeah, we've got to.
Okay. Who is next? We got Joel.
I'm next. Yeah. Again, mine has been mentioned before, but it is The Thing.
Okay.
All
right. I've seen this movie a few times now, and like Danny was saying, the special effects are incredible for like the 80s, and I love the whole murder mystery aspect to it. People don't know who's killing, and we don't really even know until the end of the movie. And it is a really good movie. Good acting for the most part. Got Kurt Russell in there, so he's usually a good actor. And yeah, it's just a all around good movie. So it made my list.
All right. Cody, I'm guessing that's going to be a little higher on yours.
Number 1 or
you
number
don't
2,
have
right?
to say.
No, yeah.
A little.
Okay, I'll go next. I've got The Evil Dead.
Oh gosh.
1981. So the first one, The Evil Dead. So I watched both of the first and the second one actually yesterday. And the first one is really, I mean, I know it gets a lot of credit, but I feel like in the series, it's so different. Like it's an actual horror film compared to the other ones. I mean, I guess the remake is too, but
yeah.
compared to 2 and Army of Darkness, it's completely
Especially
different.
Yeah.
It's largely a serious horror film, and again with the practical effects, some of that's like overboard, but it still looks really cool. A lot of the camera work and even the acting isn't bad. It's not horrible like a lot of 80s horror. So and the amount of blood that's in this movie is just, I thought the remake had a lot, was really bloody, but watching this one, I'm like, okay, this one's no slouch. Like it's got a lot of gore and blood and all kinds of stuff. So
I mean, it is raining blood in the remake, so
it is. Yeah.
At one point,
might not be able to compete with that, but so, and I was wondering, am I going to put Evil Dead 2 on the list as well? And I really took a dip in quality to me watching Evil Dead 2. It's just,
Thank you.
Yeah, it just takes such a turn. I don't know. And it's really just bad. I don't know. I don't get because a lot of people like the Evil Dead 2 more than the original.
Yeah.
So
It seems like everybody, and I've never quite understood it. Now, I didn't really grow up with the franchise, so again, when I don't grow up with it, I tend to fall in a different camp than the majority, but I'm with you. I watched those movies to review them, and I've watched them since. I watched them beforehand, and it's hard to even describe it, because the first one is kind of goofy and weird and slapstick, but it's a little bit more raw.
yeah.
And then you get into the third one, and the third one is straight up slapstick.
Yeah.
And I'll prefer either one. It's like I either want it to be full on horror or full on slapstick. But when they try to do both in two, which everybody seems to think is the perfect mix, it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just didn't get it. And when I saw Evil Dead 2 back in the day, like on its own, as just its own film, I did kind of enjoy it. I was laughing, it was fun. But watching it after watching the first one, I was like, no, this is stupid. It's not for me. And like the stop motion stuff, and I don't know. It was really weird. So anyways, I'm not talking about Evil Dead 2. That's not on my list. the Evil Dead is so good. I love it. It'll probably make my top like 20 or 30 of all time if I were to make a list like that. So yeah, for sure.
Was that your number 3, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if your number 3 would make your top 20 or 30, your next 2 would definitely make it, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Okay, Cody, you're number 2.
Number 2 is The Lost Boys. This, alongside Terminator 2, was the VHS tapes of my father's that I ran through the most. I live and breathe this movie. Something about it. Like, I love vampire movies, but this one just always had the most style. And it always had the most coolness, and it always had the most fun, while still genuinely being a pretty dark, scary movie. Like the way that they kind of hide the vampire from you for a long time. Like it's all POV shots of them flying around, and you only get little glimpses of like their bat feet and stuff like that in the third act. But something about the way that the movie builds, where they introduce you to this California town and all of the crazy 80ness of it, with Kiefer Sutherland's hair, which he's still like the coolest vampire. Like, Jerry Dandridge might be the best one, but Kiefer Sutherland's David is the coolest one. And the whole biker gang aesthetic to it, and the two brothers, which, I have a brother that I grew up with as well. And we kind of had that same relationship where you love each other, you protect each other, but you always kind of fight at the same time. And it all builds to just this badass third act where it's like a siege movie where the vampires are sieging on this house. And I don't know, like just everything about it is just perfect to me. There's just like one of these movies that even if I tried, if you paid me to talk negatively about it, I'd be like, I need like months to try to figure this out. I mean, when you got that oiled up dude singing the saxophone, I mean, you can't give anything less than a 5 out of 5 for that.
It's so random. That part, didn't. I don't know. I mean, guess it's California, so whatever goes. But yeah, no, it's really cool for us being from California and seeing, that's Santa Cruz. So that's a place, we've been to many times.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a added bonus for me.
Gotcha.
To see those shots, like some of those shots of the town is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Katrina.
Nice. All right. My number 2 is The Shining.
All right.
Nice.
So, it's another kind of nostalgic and, just I don't know, grew up loving it, not from a kid, but as a teenager, loving this movie and watching it new, watching it fresh. I thought I was on here. From, just recently, I wondered if it would lose any of its magic feel, but no, it's still an amazing film.
Yeah. Yeah, we watched it recently for when we watched Doctor Sleep a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Can anyone explain that end scene? The where it shows the very last scene of the entire movie is a picture.
The photo?
What, 19? Yeah, the photo. And he's in it. Like
I think that it's purposely left ambiguous, and I don't think it's the type of movie that has a definitive answer no matter how many times you watch it. The way that I choose to interpret it is that he has been absorbed into the spirits of the hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
So that's
See
like
that.
a picture of everybody that is now, in purgatory of that hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
the overlook, the haunted
Mm-hmm.
hotel.
Yeah, I think when you start to get into that whole theory about he was, he's reincarnated and all that, I think you're starting to stretch, because I don't care how many times you watch that movie, you're not going to find any other moment in the film that backs that up. So it's a cool idea, but I think the other one is a little bit more backed by what you see previous to that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's like that's like the
Stephen
one
King.
scene in the movie where it's like, all right, like it would have been perfectly fine on its own without having that last photo op. Like, okay,
Hmm.
you're trying to be artsy now with your movie, which the rest of the movie wasn't like that. So,
Okay. So, Joel, you're next. Number 2.
so my number 1 and 2 can go either way, depending on the time of day, I guess. So today my number 2 is going to be Lost Boys.
Oh, okay.
I love this movie
Wow.
a lot, and it's I love the theme song, "Cry Little Sister." I think that's it's a pretty
Oh yeah.
creepy song, but also like it fits perfect with this movie. And it's I love like Kiefer Sutherland. Just like what Danny was saying, 24 is one of the best shows ever. And he's an awesome character in this movie, and I kind of wish he did more horror movies, because I also loved Mirrors as well with him, and he needs to do more horror movies for sure.
Oh, they're making a new one, right? Are they remaking it, or what
There,
are they trying to do?
I think it's a reboot. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken. It was supposed to be like
They haven't really said.
Got...
Yeah, the last that I read, they were trying to do a CW series for a while, which thank God that fell through. And it's hard to say, because I feel like the tabloids don't really understand the difference between remake and reboot. So until you get like an official statement from the director, you never really know what you're going to get. Because like I take remake as we're taking the template of the original film and we're doing that again somehow. Reboot, you could do a sequel, you could do a requel like Halloween 2018, and it could still technically be a reboot. So it seems like they're trying to, by the look of the cast of the first 2 people that have gotten casted, they're probably trying to do the story of the original movie again, just different, modernized.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, the way I see a reboot is the studio is attempting to like relaunch the series, so they're attempting to get more out of the series than just this one-off remake. So that's
exactly.
kind of
The way that I try to explain it is that every single remake is in itself a reboot, but not every reboot is a remake.
Okay, there you go. It's very philosophical.
A little Willy Wonka-ized version of it.
Okay, so my number 2 is A Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one. Yes. This one, it's not my favorite of the series, but we're doing 80s, so out of the 80s, it's my favorite.
Yeah, Halloween 5 is his favorite.
No, it's not. Halloween 5 is not my favorite of the Halloween series either.
It's Nightmare.
Yeah. So, Freddy, the introduction of him. I think Nancy's probably my second favorite final girl.
Yeah.
And I don't think she gets enough credit. I think that scene in the school when she's in the classroom and she's having a dream, and then she, screams and wakes up. Like, that's like the best scream I've ever heard. That scream is just like so perfect, and she looks like terrified. Like, it's genuine. I feel like that's just, one of the better moments for a Scream, or for a Final Girl. Anyway, so the whole story of Freddy is great. It, obviously launched a whole franchise and an icon, so obviously it's going to get credit for that. But the theme song, or whatever you want to call it, is great. It's got a really good, the series has a really good documentary too that I recommend if you haven't seen it, to check it out.
6 hours long, but it's good.
So yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy. Okay,
I like it.
Cody, your numero
uno.
Well, I don't know what's left to even say about this movie at this point, but number one is John Carpenter's The Thing.
The Thing.
Okay.
I've said for a long time that The Thing and The Lost Boys, they always kind of compete for my number one. But what makes The Thing number one for me is that it basically has everything that I want out of a horror movie. It's genuinely scary. The tension is always rising. It's got a great ambiguous ending that just leads to conversation even decades after the film has been released. It's shot beautifully. Even that snow-like setting. Like, I've always thought that snow kind of adds this weird openness yet isolation. Like, you can go anywhere, but you kind of can't. So it kind of adds to that bottled up feeling of paranoia that the movie goes for. I love the cast of characters here. I mean, for a cast that has 10 characters, none of them really get specifically focused on, but yet they're such efficient storytellers that you know just enough about everyone to get an idea of who they all are. And that's very rare, especially for a horror movie. Usually you get one or two characters that get fleshed out. The rest of them are all red shirts, and you don't feel that way with The Thing. And of course, the cherry on top is just the amazing practical effects that, in my opinion, today haven't even been matched, let alone surpassed. I mean, this, like I said, is like the Bible for why practical effects belong in horror movies. And it's a dying art, and it kills me. I mean, you see it once in a while, but CG is so easy and cheap compared to all of that just nobody wants to go back and do them. And it just really sucks, because I can count on one hand how many movies effects in the past, hell, I'll say 30 years are genuinely effective. But I would need days to make a list of all the movies where the effectiveness of something is killed by a computer generated effect.
Yeah.
So, The Thing to me is just, that's John Carpenter's masterpiece. Sorry, Halloween fans, but it is. And it's my number one.
Nice. Yeah. It's kind of what I thought you were going to say.
I would definitely put The Thing above Halloween as far as movie in general goes. I mean, Halloween is praised by probably more people than The Thing is, but Halloween, I mean, The Thing just has more going for it than Halloween does. I mean, even the acting wise, Halloween is not. The actors, even Jamie Lee Curtis, her acting is probably the best of the entire movie, but it's still not the greatest in the world. And then it's a pretty basic movie, whereas The Thing, it's definitely more complicated and more complex of a story. So yeah, definitely I would probably say that over Halloween. It's gonna lose some fans, but
they're finicky. They'll come back around.
Yeah, you guys make some good points on that. I'm still going to say Halloween is my favorite. But
I was going to say Danny will keep the Halloween fans.
I'm a Halloween fan who...
Sell out.
I understand that it's not it's not that great, but it's overrated, I will say. It is definitely overrated.
and overplayed in our house.
All you need to play is the theme music, right? That's all you really need for those movies.
Okay.
Okay.
It's your turn, right?
Yep, it's my turn. So I'm realizing I need to watch The Thing because it is one that I have yet to see. And I said earlier this year, I want to watch that movie this year.
Yeah. It would have been on your list today.
Who knows? So, but because I haven't seen
I
it.
envy you that you get to watch it for the first time.
Yeah. So this month I will definitely be watching that movie.
All right.
But
Nice.
my number one is Lost Boys. And I saw that for the first time.
Now, if you wouldn't have thrown in that Halloween 5 thing, we could have all just had this synergistic list.
Yeah. And I think it was this year that I saw Lost Boys for the first time. Mm-hmm. And I saw it because watching your YouTube, Cody, you were talking about it, and I was like, okay, I need to see this movie. And I never thought I would like a vampire movie in any way. Mm-hmm. This, oh my gosh, has become one of my favorite movies. I love that movie.
Awesome.
Well, it's your number one, so yeah.
Yeah, it's my number one of 80s, but I think it's probably on my number one, I don't know, horror list or whatever, somewhere that we did. I loved that movie. It was great. So,
All right.
We've talked about it enough. That's it.
Yeah. We've talked about it a couple times here.
Okay. Joel, are you going to have something different that we haven't talked about yet?
No. What do you think? My number one, which could have gone back and forth with Lost Boys, was Evil Dead.
Okay.
And I've talked about this one now. I love this movie. I've seen it a few times now over the years, and again, didn't grow up with this one or anything. So as an adult, I watched it, and it brought us Sam Raimi, it brought us Bruce Campbell, a unlikely hero in this movie because he's kind of like a side character. He's, for most horror movies, he's the guy who would basically have died first, who turns into the hero of the movie, which is a pretty cool little turn of events there. Although he is the hero, but at the same time, he doesn't actually save anybody. But he's the last man standing. He's, but he later becomes the hero of the series, of the franchise. And I remember we went to see the remake of Evil Dead in theaters, but we watched this one first to get a comparison for after that movie. And there's definitely more blood in the remake, but there's just something about this movie that was actually still creepier after we had gone back, after we had seen the remake of Evil Dead. So it's still my number one of the entire series probably at this point, and it's just an all around good movie. The makeup effects were really creepy and on point, and yeah, it was just a fun-filled movie.
Yeah, that one definitely has a lot of good scares too.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, I guess they would be jump scares, but just like the way that whatever they're called, I feel like they have a name. I can't remember the name, but when they get possessed or whatever.
I think they're something bites. I know Cenobites is Hellraiser, but there's something
like Deadites.
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 Yeah, Deadites. Yeah.
Yeah, when they.
It's your number one, dude. Come on.
I know. I know I was going to be asked this question.
I didn't know there was a test.
But yeah, they're pretty scary, especially once they turn when they kind of pop up at you. They're pretty scary. So, all right, my number one is The Shining.
Okay.
This one, I feel like I like more and more every time I see it. There's kind of something more to like get from it every time, as far as like the tone and the atmosphere goes, and some of the dialogue. And I could do without the wife. I could do without that actress.
Man, she was tortured in that movie.
Yeah. Well, that's the weird thing about that one, because I have kind of the same pet peeve. I think she's great until the last 20 minutes, and then it's a bit too much hysteria for me. But then there's always, like it was just brought up, like, well, she was tortured. Like there's this really sadistic backstory to how she got to that performance that kind of makes it interesting, but yeah, I'm with you. It's a bit much.
Yeah. I would have liked to see a different actress playing that role, but that's really my only nitpick of the movie. I think, Jack Nicholson, I like pretty much everything he's done. I think he was perfect for this.
Yeah.
The whole red rum thing with the boy and his finger.
Red rum.
Some of the imagery and stuff, just, yeah, it's good. And then Dr. Sleep was great as well. The follow-up, 40 years later or whatever. So yeah, that's my number one. And
nice.
That's it. That's everybody.
We did it.
Yeah,
That is.
Cody, have you
made it, guys?
Have you done a top 80s ranking?
Not specifically in the 80s, but maybe with the exception of Phantasm 2, this is basically my top 5 horror films, period. Okay. I think there was... I want to say I usually stick Nightmare on Elm Street in Phantasm 2's slot, but I didn't want to talk Nightmare on Elm Street twice. But no, I had thought of that, though. Now that I'm full-time, I'm brainstorming all these ideas that I never had the time to do, and I've thought about that whenever things calm down, doing like a top horror movies of either each year or each decade or something like that, like a little decade series, or a best horror movies of 1981 or something along those lines. I've got a lot of ideas that I've had written down and just never had the time to do, and then they just become ideas, but now they have time to become reality.
Great. Awesome. Well, look forward to those.
Yeah, definitely.
So I have a question, not regarding horror. You talked about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka.
Now, what is your opinion on the one that was done with Johnny Depp?
Oh, Michael Jackson and the Chocolate Factory?
Pretty much.
All right, there we go. Just had to make sure.
Need I say more? Yeah, I mean, I think Tim Burton's style is cool for that movie. I think that, that he brings a different aesthetic to it that makes sense within the context of that story. And I've only seen it once, and it was back in high school, so I'm going to have to try to think back. I don't remember, hating any of the kids or any of the songs or anything, but I could not tolerate Johnny Depp and his version of Willy Wonka. I mean, Gene Wilder was perfect, so that's one knock that you're just not going to get there. But his take on it, just being this really creepy, weird, pale, smiling bastard that looks like he wants to diddle these kids. I mean, I couldn't get through it. And then even when you get to the end, that whole, thing where it's like, oh, you did it, boy, you did it. And he's just like, oh, well, you're the last one left. Here's the factory. And it's like, what? That's not the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a fan.
Yeah, it's a hard one to get through for sure because of Johnny Depp. I don't know why they had to give him Botox in that movie, but didn't work.
Well, yeah.
No.
Yeah, and I just had to check.
It's his favorite movie of all time.
I passed.
Check him out. Yeah, you've passed in my book. So,
all right. So before we go, Cody, I want to hear what movies you guys are going to be doing for the 31 on 31.
Not going to tell us that.
Well, the series.
So,
I thought it was on the picture. Isn't it on the picture?
What's your number
it is.
one?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. What's your list right now? So the theme is Unholy Terrors, and we're doing The Exorcist, The Omen,
Okay.
The Conjuring series, Insidious, Shining and Doctor Sleep, Poltergeist, and Blair Witch.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay.
Very cool.
No paranormal activity on that.
No, that would have made sense, but it's more of a bitch than people realize to make 31 work. So there was about
Right,
4 or other franchises that were like possible entries, and then once we decided as a group that we're not even going to acknowledge the TV version of The Shining, then we're like, okay, well, we'll just put Blair Witch there and be done. So
That one's
Paranormal
actually
was go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say the TV Shining is actually more true to the
Book
actual
accurate
book itself than the actual Shining movie was. But
yeah, I've never seen it. I've never heard any reasons that make me want to see it. So, yeah, Paranormal was on the early list, and I think what was the other one? I had Sinister on the early list, and a couple other ones, but that's the way that we were able to get a clean 31, and I didn't think anybody was going to fuss about the TV series. So,
yeah. Are you doing?
you'll get one person in there.
Are you doing Blair Witch?
oh, always.
Are you doing all the Blair Witch films? The Blair Witch.
The 3
Book of
theatricals.
Shadows? Okay, you are. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
Okay,
Awesome.
cool.
Can't
Okay.
wait to watch that one.
Yeah. I look forward to it. All right. So, hey, thanks for coming on. I know you got things to do.
Yeah, no problem.
This was fun. Go ahead and check us out when we post. We're going to be doing VHS, like I was talking about earlier. We're going to be doing, obviously, Halloween Kills. And then we got to get into maybe some of the Paranormal Activity movies. I know there's a new one coming out.
There's a new one coming out at the end of this month. Yeah, they're hard to
29th.
get through, but yeah,
Yeah.
the 29th on Paramount, I think.
Yeah, I've seen the first 3, and they all have the same problem. Nothing happens until the last 8 minutes.
Yeah, kind of.
And yet everyone jumps in the theaters for some reason.
Yeah.
When that door slightly opens, I've seen a couple of them in theaters, and that door gets them every time for some reason. That door slightly opening.
And the lights. You don't forget about those lights.
Oh yeah, the lights turning on and off. Ooh.
Okay, well, that is it. Again, thanks for coming on. And that was our top 5. So for the 80s. And so look out, we're probably going to do 70s, 60s, all the decades.
All the decades.
Yeah, why not? All right. Well, this has been Scare Talk.
Sleep tight.
Don't let Cody bite.
Round.
Awesome.